Once again, welcome children in this class. And today again from the Hornbill, we'll read the lesson Landscape of the Soul. And it is written by Nathalie Traveriol. And here we have got two stories about the painter Wu Dozi and the Tang Emperor Zhangzong. So this is a very wonderful story, and say it is of the Chinese, this thing, and the Chinese, they believe that the stories like this, they are very important for the children to understand the things. So most of their books have got such kind of stories. So it is about the painter Wu Dozi, who lived in the 8th century. So the story is about 8th century. His last painting was a landscape commissioned by Tang Emperor Zhuangzong. So this Tang Emperor Zhuangzong was there. So he asked him to make a beautiful picture, a beautiful painting on the wall of the palace, and he told him to decorate it. The master had hidden his work behind the screen, and after painting Wu Dozi, he covered it with the curtain, and he did not want the other people to see it, and he said that only the emperor will see it. For a long while, emperor admired the wonderful scene, and when he removed the curtain, the emperor was very much astonished, and he was enjoying, he was looking at the painting, he was admiring the painting. It had beautiful scene, forests were there, high mountains, waterfalls, clouds floating in the sky, men on hilly paths, birds in flight. And the painter said to him, "Look, sire." He said to him, "Look, sir, in this cave at the foot of the mountain dwells a spirit." And he said, this big mountain is there, and below the mountain there is a cave, and in that cave a spirit lives. The painter clapped his hands and entered to the cave open. Entrance of the cave open. So when the painter, he clapped his hands, the cave that was there under the hills, under the mountain, it opened. The inside is splendid, beyond anything words can convey. Please let me show your majesty the way. And the painter said, "Inside this cave is very beautiful. Your majesty, I'll show you the way." He said, "Come." The painter entered the cave, but the entrance closed behind him. So as soon as the painter entered the cave, the door closed. And before the astonished emperor could move or utter a word, the painting had vanished from the wall. So can you believe this? That if somebody had made the painting on the wall, if he has decorated it, and clapping the hands may open the cave door, as the painter moves inside that, and as soon as the painter moves inside the cave, the painting vanishes. So is it believable? Are you going to believe all these things? So such kind of stories there. And after that, there was no trace of the painter. Neither the brush was left, neither the painting, nothing was, no mark was there on the wall of the painting. The artist was never seen in the world again. So this is one story. And the second story is about a blacksmith. Blacksmith is Quentin Metz, and he fell in love with a painter's daughter. So he fell in love with the painter's daughter. He wanted to marry her. The father did not accept him as a son-in-law because his profession was of a blacksmith, and the father of the girl was a painter, and he did not accept that profession. He said no. So one day what happened, this fellow, Quentin, he quietly entered the studio of the girl's father, and then what he did, there was a recently made picture on that. on the canvas. So he made a fly, and he made the fly on top of the on the picture, and he hid himself or he went away from there. When the father came, he tried to hush the fly from there. The fly did not move because it was looking the real fly. It did not move from there. And when he realized what is there, so then he called him, "Who are you?" And then he was very much fascinated with that fly that he made on that. And then he made him his assistant. And then what happened? He married his daughter to him. So this way the blacksmith became the son-in-law of the painter. So this is another story. And here it says, the story, the first story that we have read, such story play a very important role in China's classical education. So when the classical education is given to the children in China, such kinds of stories are mentioned in that. The books of Confucius and Zhuangzi are full of them. They help the master to guide his disciple in the right direction. And they say that this kind of stories, they guide the children in a proper way. So they are deeply revealing the spirit in which art was considered. So according to them, the art was very important, and these kind of stories, they help children to understand the reality of the art. Contrast this story, another famous one about the painter. There was one more painter. Whenever he drew the picture of a dragon, he did not paint the eye of the dragon. Now, making a dragon without the eye, what is the reason behind that? According to that painter, if he made the eye of the dragon will flew in the city, it will flew in the country, will cause destruction to the people. So that's why he never made the eye of the dragon, because he feared it would fly out of the painting, with an old story from my native Flanders that I find most representative of Western painting. So such kind of paintings are there, and such kind of studies are given to the children. Classical education is given to the children of China. So that's why you see that the present situation, what is going on, China is called the dragon. And you know what is the work of the dragon? The work of the dragon is to cause destruction. So this fellow, this painter, he never made the eye of the dragon, because he knew that by making the eye of the dragon will fly, and then it will cause destruction in the country. So these are the three stories. First is about Wu Josie, second is about Quentin, and this one is about Flanders. In the Chinese story, the emperor commissioned a painting and appreciates its outer appearance. So here, the Chinese story, the emperor, he pays money to the artist and he appreciates the outer appearance of the painting, outer painting. But the artist revealed to him the true meaning of his work. We see the painting and we understand the painting and we say it's so beautiful. But the painter, he sees what is there inside the painting. Their thinking is something else and our thinking is something else. The emperor may rule over the territory he has conquered, but only the artist knows the way within. Let me show the way. And the emperor, he rules the country, but the artist knows the way within, how to go inside. So that's why he said, let me show the way. The door, a word that means both the path and the method. The mysterious works of the universe. And according to that artist, it was the mysterious works, the path. The painting is gone, but the artist had reached his goal. The painting disappeared from the wall, but the artist reached his goal. beyond any material appearance, and no material appearance is left over there. The classical Chinese landscape is not meant to reproduce an actual view. The Chinese landscape, they don't show us the actual view as would a Western figurative painting. So Western figurative painting is something else, and what the Chinese landscape show, the classical Chinese landscape show, that is something else. Whereas the European painter wants you to borrow his eye and look at the particular landscape exactly as he saw it. And the European painter, his view is something else. He wants us to borrow his eyes and see at the painting whatever the landscape they have made from the specific angle. The Chinese painter does not choose a single viewpoint, but the Chinese painter does not have such viewpoint. His landscape are not real one. The Chinese landscapes are not real one. You can enter it from any point. So from wherever you see, you will understand the Chinese painting. This is even more true in the case of horizontal scroll. So horizontal scroll, you know what is that? When we roll the calendar, it becomes horizontal and we open it. So in the previous this thing you must have seen the stories of Ramayana, Mahabharata, or the pictures you have seen of old kings and queens. That time you saw that whenever the messenger came, he brought a scroll, and he opened the scroll and he read the message, and again he rolled the scroll and went on. So that is the scroll. And here what is there? Horizontal scroll, in which the action is of slowly opening one section of the painting, then rolling it up to move to the other. So here the painting is there, the one side is opening, the other side is closing, and that way we are looking at the picture. So the rolling moves on as a dimension of time which is unknown to any other form of painting. It also requires the active participation of the viewer, and while looking at the scroll painting, the participation of the viewer is very necessary, who decides at what pace he will travel through the painting. Because if he'll see the painting in a quick way, so what will happen? He will not understand what is there in the painting. But if the painting is opened slowly and the viewer sees the painting, then he will understand what is there in the painting. So the participation which is physical as well as mental. So physically we are opening and closing it, and mentally is we are looking at it and we are trying to understand the picture. The Chinese painter does not want you to borrow his eyes. The Chinese painter doesn't want you to borrow his eyes. He says you look at the painting and have your own view. But according to the European painter, through their eyes they want you to see the picture. He wants you to enter his mind. The landscape is an inner one, a spiritual and conceptual space. And to the Chinese, he wants that you should enter his mind and understand what the painting wants to show you. And the landscape is an inner, a spiritual and conceptual space. Means from inside you should understand. You should get inside the mind and try to understand what the Chinese picture wants to tell you. Achha, now page number 36. This concept is expressed as Shang Shui. Now here we have got Shang Shui. Shang Shui are the literary words mountain, water, which is used together represent the word landscape, and together we call it a landscape. More than two elements of an image, these represents two complementary poles reflecting Taoist view of universe, and the mountain is yang, reaching vertically towards heaven, stable, warm and dry in the sun, while the water is yin, horizontal and resting on the earth, fluid, moist and cool. So here there are two elements in Shan Shui, that is the mountain and water. So Doist want to tell us that mountain is yang and mountain is supposed to be stable, warm and dry, and yin is earth, that is horizontal, it is fluid, moist and cool. The interaction of yin, the receptive feminine aspect of universal energy, and its counterpart yang. So here yang is the man and yin is the woman, and of course the fundamental notion of Daoism. So Daoism is there. The yang is active and masculine, while yin is receptive and feminine. What is often overlooked is an essential third element. Now these two things we have seen, yang and yin means mountain and water. This we have seen, the earth. And here we have got one more thing. The third thing is there, that is in the middle, and that is called middle void. This can be compared with the yogic practice of pranayam, breathe in, retain, breathe out. The suspension of breath is a void where meditation occurs. So when we breathe in, then we sustain breath inside. So that time meditation takes place, and then we breathe out. The middle void is essential, and the middle void is very important. Nothing can happen without it. When the middle void is not there, nothing is possible. Hence the importance of white, unpainted space in Chinese landscape. So you must have seen that the Chinese landscape, there is something unpainted thing is there, the white thing is there in the picture. This is also where man finds a fundamental role. In that space between heaven and earth, he becomes the conduit of the communication between both poles of the universe. So here is the fundamental role of man in this space between heaven and earth, and communication between both poles of the universe. So these heaven and earth are the poles of the universe. His presence is essential, even if it's only suggested far from being lost or oppressed by lofty peaks. He is in Franciscois Cheng's wonderful expression, the eye of the landscape. So this Franciscois Cheng's, his expression is the eye of the landscape. So here we have seen two things are here. I have already written on the blackboard. The third is the story of the dragon that is being made, but the eye is not made. Another thing is regarding the pictures, the paintings that are made by the Chinese people. The Chinese, they want our mind to get inside the painting, but the Western painters, they want our eyes. We should see the painting through their eyes. And then the fourth thing is, the fifth thing is about yin and yang, mountain and water. And the third is the middle void. So that is very important in the life. And now this is very important thing, getting inside outsider art. So this is very important. This I will teach you in the next class. So I think you have understood this. Yeah, this lesson is very little bit complicating because there are difficult words, difficult names are there, and when you understand the stories one after the other, then you will be able to understand this lesson very much. Alright, so that's all for today, children. Good day.